GamersGalaxie. Time's flying. I definitely was not expecting it to go this quickly. Glad that we're having actually a lot to cover, which is a good thing for IMX. But how are you doing today, Rubik?
Good, mate. Good. No, I can't believe it's episode number 10 already, and I'm very excited for this interview today. We have under the radar, I believe, game that's going to be not under the radar when it comes out. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, how about you go ahead and introduce our special guest for this week?
Cool. We're talking with Dogberto or Lachlan, fellow Australian by the sound of the accent. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So you are correct. I am a fellow Australian. I'm also the CEO of our studio, Minted Loot. Was originally based out of Sydney. Now just kicking around on the East Coast, very bizarrely on a farm, which is the strangest place to be developing a blockchain game from. But that's where my in-laws are, and we've got a little one. So we're sort of an international organization. We've got folks in the UK, a huge number of people in Malaysia and Indonesia working on the game, a couple in the US. It's a real mixed bag team. We've got folks like myself with an AI engineering background. We've got lots of traditional game developers, other folks from AR and VR side of things. Really sort of fun international team. And we're developing Chronoforge, which has that same sort of fun international vibe. I think you'll find pretty different in terms of style, visually and story and stuff to what else is on the market. And really excited to be on the show and to chat to you guys today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have you here. Love to see projects that are coming to IMX, that are building, especially during this hard time in the bear market, and really just pushing to put out a quality game. So why don't we dive right into it a little bit? Tell us a little bit about... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, what's the size? How many people are working on the game? How big's the team?
So we've got around 15 full-timers and a roster of sort of 10 part-timers at any one time. So, you have like your core artists, your core programmers, your designers, and then depending on what we're doing, we have like additional contractors that will come in and focus on like a bulk of character art or a VFX specialist if we're really trying to get something down. We have like some environment art contractors we brought in temporarily at the moment to focus on the overworld because that's a really big piece and just need more labor. So it ends up being like sort of 25 people working on any given day, of which, probably 15 of those people are consistent throughout the whole lifespan of game development. And the rest sort of come and go as we need different specialists over different points in time in the process.
Awesome. So back to I guess the first dive-in question. What is your inspiration for the project, and some of your influences for the game?
So the co-founder Rudy and myself, we were both sort of big fans of WoW and League of Legends and Dota, and that sort of stylized action role-playing combat and art style when we were younger, and continue to play those games, but have matured like many, and got busy jobs and small kids, and found that genre and that style has started to fade away in recent years. What you have are sort of massive MMOs that expect you to play, more than 100 hours intensively. You're logging on every day for significant hours to progress and be part of that. And the styles also turn very macabre and dark, right? So if you look at Baldur's Gate, for example, or Diablo, we're seeing particularly recent action RPG titles in the fantasy space. They're all very, very dark in their theme. So for us, we kind of wanted to get away from the darkness and, build a game that's sort of for people like us. They maybe were a big WoW fanatic back in the day. They don't have time for a truly massive experience. They don't have time for like 100 hours of intensive playthrough, but they want to hop in every week, play for an hour, maybe two, do some raids, do a bit of harvesting, have a good social experience. And they want to do that in a generally sort of positive atmosphere, right? Because these are slightly dark times, let's say globally. The economy is a bit down. There's the threat of like international conflict, all those kind of things. So instead of going for a very, very dark, demon-filled, ash-covered world, we have gone for a much more poppier, I sometimes call it a Zootopia sort of style or cast of characters. We've got these fuzzy playable characters, all kinds of creatures in very poppy, bright colors, and in that hand-textured art style that hasn't been seen as much. A lot of games going full realism these days. We're coming back that other way. It's not really anime. It's more if you decided to build WoW today and you started with today's technologies, what would that look like? A sort of crisper version of that poppy stylized art. That's what we're going for. And if you have a look at our website and look at some of the art on there, you can see how rich we've got, like bright colored jungles and sort of snowy peaks with glowing minerals and that side of just happy sort of time to your day. If you only got an hour or two to play between busy things, we want it to be just positive. Like it's fine to have an action RPG game, but it doesn't have to be dark all the time, I guess, is what we're going for. So that was like our core inspiration. And then we looked at games like V Rising that were very successful in mixing genres. They got a bit of building in there. They have the traditional action RPG gameplay, and folks are sort of embracing these genre mashups. So we're sort of playing in a similar space. We have a mashup of dungeon crawling action RPG combat and also a strategic level competition and dilemma that's happening between the players, with basically all the players' settlements are vying for power and have the potential to wipe each other out. A la sort of Ashes of Creation, folks are fans of that game in development, where there's real consequences and a real strategic overlay to the smaller action RPG world that you take part in day to day. So that's the slightly long-winded inspiration.
Oh, that's cool. Like I'm going to be honest with you. I've been following your game back when it was called PX Quest, and I was not very impressed with with what was coming out. That wasn't going to be my thing, and then I just sort of like didn't disconnect or anything, but just stopped really following you guys because that's just not my style of game. That looked like a turn-based kind of strategy game, very pixelated. And then all of a sudden, just a couple of months ago, I just come across, just did a little check out of you guys and saw this Chronoforge rebrand, this art style that you're talking about. It's absolutely up there with the best that's coming out in Web3, in my opinion. And now I'm starting to find out about all these core game lips. Like, is there a quick rundown of the core game lips? Is there more than one? Is it, and also, can you talk about PX Quest and what the story was behind that? If I'm wrong, or if I just had wrong information?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the origin story. So originally, myself and Rudy, the two early founders, we wanted to actually do an art style quite like what we have now for the game as our NFT art. And what happened was the meta for NFT at that time was all pixel. This is back when we launched in January last year. And we got a marketing guy in, and he was very heavy on, you just got to go for the meta for your initial launch collection. So we compromised a bit there, and we did this like heavy pixel art, retro style, but wanting to make a game that was actually in a different style that was 3D, and that was this nice like hand-painted stylized look. So that was really a clash between sort of the demands or the fad of the market and knowing that we needed to pander to that. We had actually tried getting the project going under a different face. We used a brand called Minted Minions initially, which was this like very high fantasy, very hand-painted, high-quality art. And actually, we weren't getting traction with the high-quality art, which was bizarre. But it was just down to folks at the time, other projects wouldn't promote you if you weren't playing into this meta. So we kind of had to play the game. We just accepted like, okay, new faces, new project. We sort of just have to play this game and go with the meta for now. And then we did a sort of reveal a couple of months later, which some people actually really disliked and a lot of people loved. But some people joined thinking they're getting a pixel project, and then we said, hey, actually, it's this big 3D, really high stylized thing. Most people liked it. Some people didn't like it. Those that were really hard into the retro style. And so it was sort of like the plan from the get-go, but we had to put on this slightly different face for marketing initially.
So you weren't planning to do a game in the pixel style. It was always planned to be what you developed.
Yes. Yeah. I think, we recognize that pixel style can only take you so far. Like, you're unlikely to become like a AA studio if you're trying to push, a pixel turn-based, very static style of combat. And the market's saturated with that very quickly, right? Because it's easy to develop those kind of games. It's cheap. And so a lot of these early Web3 projects did a lot of these very underwhelming pixel-based sort of turn-based dungeon crawler things. And so I think it was definitely the right call for us to basically spend all of our project money on the project. Like, not every project does that. A lot of projects, the founders walked away with $1 million or $500,000. We didn't. We just put the money into development, and we're kind of risking it all. We're spending every dollar on this game to push the quality to try to basically leapfrog into a AA studio status.
So what other game looks? Sorry, I asked 3 questions in one there.
Go ahead.
And I'll let you go.
Yeah. So game loop. So I guess there's 3 fundamental games within the game. So there's a traditional dungeon crawler. It's team based. It's sort of optimized for 5-man, but you can play as solo. You can go up to at least 10. We're trying to push up and see if we can get to 15-man dungeons as well. Those are randomly generated, so the structure changes every time you play, and the enemies and that shuffle around. So there's a couple of different dungeons you go to in different biomes, and so that's pretty familiar to most people. And there's 12 different classes to that, and so you have the traditional grind the dungeon, get better gear. With the better gear, can do the next tier of difficulty in the dungeon. We try to make it feel like less of a grind by randomizing, but also our enemies are pretty smart. They don't just have 1 or 2 attacks. They have at least 3 special attacks. They're quite intelligent in their strategies, and you have to play quite differently depending on the mix of enemies in front of you. So it's a bit of a thinking man's sort of hack and slash. That's one loop. The second loop is the overworld sort of harvesting piece. So instead of the very passive style of harvesting that's quite common these days, particularly in the Web3 space, our harvesting's quite dynamic. So we have mini games for hunting. If you want to go kill a boar in the overworld, you actually have to chase that thing around. It runs away from you. If you want to go fishing, you have to juggle this little meter to kind of catch the fish. If you want to mine or chop down wood, there's a skill to doing that well and getting bonuses and doing that efficiently. So it's not like a set and forget style of harvesting. There's a lot more fun to that. And then the third part of the loop is this strategic overlay, which is the flying settlements called trading companies that actually govern this world. So there are 12 different trading companies. And rather than have these just be settlements on the ground that are all run by NPCs, these 12 trading companies are actually governed by the players. And week to week, the players engage in governance, which has real world impacts. So you vote weekly on whether you want your settlement to attack another settlement with their weaponry, whether you're going to turn on your Chronoforge, which opens up access to new areas and allows you to smelt the highest tier gear. And there's some complexity, some secretness to that we're keeping under wraps, but there's also ways that your decisions can go massively wrong on a sort of global scale. So you're basically going to have to strategize at this global level about how you're dealing with the other settlements. Are they a threat to you? Should you focus on upgrading your gear and your infrastructure this turn, or should you be this week just taking out one of those competitors before they take you out? So we introduce these dilemmas, and they're ones that the community for each settlement is going to wrestle over. They're going to debate. They're going to end up voting, and that's sort of week to week this spectacle with a dramatic outcome. I'll just say. Based on what different settlements choose to do and how the players vote.
Awesome.
Oh. That sounds really interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty intricate to say the least. But I think one of the most important questions of this is how's the development coming, and is the game playable yet?
Yeah, so we've been trying to push out a playable build sort of this week or next week. We're still wrestling with some of the server management to make sure we've got really good latency for folks globally. But we're pretty close to the first playtest, so that'll be this month. And then we're still looking for a launch sometime in Q4. As you know, with game development, you never want to put a hard date until you're really, really confident. But probably Q4 this year, we will get there. It's been going pretty well. So we're through most of our dungeon development. We've got a little bit to go in the overworld. We're almost through all the character development. So all the different armor sets, and there's a lot of gear in this game. So we released an NFT collection with a lot of variety, and then we committed to representing every NFT with every piece of gear in 3D in the game, which, in retrospect might have been a little too much, but it does mean that there's a hell of a lot of interesting gear, and we had to model all that. So that's taken a long time, but we're almost there. So you will find there's just a hell of a lot of cosmetic value as you go through the game, and you can dress up in all kinds of cool stuff for your character and unlock all kinds of cool gear.
Well, at the end of the day, that's what's making each character unique and allowing each person to be able to have something that's unique to them or tradable to someone else, right? So that's a big part of the player economy and stuff like that. So really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good on you guys for taking the time to keep good on that. A lot of times, unfortunately, we see in Web3 is not being able to deliver on the promises made, right? So it's
that's true.
It's
and like the
refreshing
right?
to see. It's refreshing to see a team be able to go out and actually hit those marks and be able to do something. And it's a testament to hopefully the quality of the game that we're going to be able to see here. So excited for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any risk of the, in terms of runway of getting the game out? Is like we're seeing a lot of that happen recently. Like a lot of games that sold millions of dollars worth of stuff get to a point they're nearly ready for release and they just don't have the runway to get to the end. How are you guys standing in that space?
Look, it's tight, but we're good. We got fixed price on any of the contractors we're using. We know our general, basically any heavy cost has been fixed price, contracted beforehand. So we partnered with a studio in Malaysia doing a lot of the art costs and the programming cost. That's all fixed price, and they've been delivering. So we know what we can get done. We know the features that are coming through, and it's everything that we promised from launch. We're not compromising on anything there. Where we did compromise is, folks like myself, a founder of the project, I've actually taken $0 from the project. So I've been working for a year and a half just on making sure this is everything we promised.
Wow.
And in particular, just making sure that it's a great game, because as I said, we didn't want to just do a project, take some money, make a small game and leave. No, this is our stepping stone to being a AA. And so we have one choice, and that is to make a fantastic game that people love, that makes a lot of revenue, that lets us grow, lets us make more titles, more expansions. So I'm absolutely risking it all on this one. And that, I think, should give people confidence of just in how much focus on quality and the game genuinely having growth prospects and being a quality experience. And just on that sort of theme of folks cutting corners on other projects, a lot of it comes down to often variety. They'll cut back on the character differences. We're a little bit crazy, and we are following through. We've got 12 different classes, 12 different races. There's skill trees for each of those classes. So there's a lot of effort going into that. But I think the market's going to reward us for that. The fact that we're Web 2 accessible, we're on the Epic Games Store. You don't need to have crypto if you want to start playing. You can just play with fiat and with a server-based character if you want. I think that's all really important. And for those projects that didn't focus on that early on, we focused on Web 2 accessibility and explicitly said from the beginning, we're trying to take Web 2 gamers, not just Web 3 gamers. For those that didn't, I just can't see how they're going to survive long term, particularly if you've got, a continued bear market. Whereas for us, there's a very serious prospect of just a decent number of people coming in and paying fiat as well to play. So we have a better, I think, chance of surviving any downturn and actually growing just off the back of a larger volume of Web 2 gamers.
Yeah, 1,000%. Because you look at the environment of Web3 gamers right now, it's the same 10,000 wallets connecting to every freaking game. So you cannot do something based off of a market that's that small. So it's great, being able to have the vision to say, hey, we need to be a game first and really get that under wraps. Otherwise, you're fighting for that small share.
Sorry. Have you ran a game studio or another company before? You just seem to have a lot of experience with how to get this done right from this initial chat.
Yeah, so I've run a few different big tech things before, but not gaming specifically, which is a bit odd, I guess, for someone starting a game studio. So I ran an AI consultancy. I was one of the partners in a medium-sized AI consultancy before doing this, mainly servicing sort of government customers. I did lead some big AI projects in government before breaking out and doing the consulting piece as well. So I'm used to running sort of multidisciplinary teams, multi-million-dollar budgets, just like getting product management and project management right, and running, business administration and hiring right. At least I've experience doing that. My co-founder Rudy's sort of a similar background, and then we just play a lot of games. And then fortunately, we've had the wherewithal to go find folks who know more than we do about the traditional game development. So, we've gone and hired game designers and lead artists and good programmers to help make sure that, we're not just bluffing our way through the core piece of game development. You can't do that all on your own. You can't learn that all on the fly. But I think we've learned a lot during the experience, but I'm sort of used to that. I was self-taught as an AI engineer. I didn't actually, go and get a PhD in that. I just learned programming and eventually AI programming over sort of a 10-year period. And that's sort of how I've approached game development as well. I used to mod games a bit as a kid, and then that sort of continued. And then by the time we get to this process, we ask a lot of questions of the people we work with. We learned more about the 3D art development pipeline, what to expect from roles, what are good rates in different geographies. You learn about programming in Unreal Engine. You learn about the best way to host those things. You just have to be super proactive. But not necessarily every team that stood up a Web3 project were enterprise professionals previously. I think that maybe shows just lacking that discipline, some of that basic like project management, budget management, hiring experience matters. And that's maybe where we've got a strength. Like we're not a team of game developers by founding, but we are a team of people that have run big tech projects, and ultimately gaming's a bit of both, right? It's a bit of artistic flair and vision, but also these days it's a bit of a tech project because of how many different skill sets come in, and just how big and complex they get.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, what's your experience been like building with Immutable and basically your experience with the stack over there?
Yeah, sure. So I might mention just like why we chose Immutable, because that was a question that came up a lot. So we recognize that mainstream gamers, Web2 gamers coming in are not going to want to have to deal with the complexities of gas in particular. And probably the biggest blocker to onboarding Web2 users in our view was just having to find exchanges to get a currency to then be able to mint your first NFT character or item. And so the fact that with Immutable X, folks do not have to think about an exchange. They just basically create a wallet. They can create an email-based wallet. So we're using the link-based SDK to just create email-based wallet for a Web2 user. They don't have to think about managing that. They just use their email. And then tokens, NFTs just get dropped to them during gameplay, and there's no additional barrier. So that gasless experience, that free minting experience, was why I actually couldn't see any other layer 2 solution that would work for us. Like Polygon, a lot of people said, hey, get on Polygon, but your gamers have to go and learn how to get Holdomatic. They have to understand how that system works. And that was just too big of a barrier in our mind, looking, especially as like how many exchanges are in trouble and looking rocky. Whereas if people don't even have to think about an exchange, if it's just, here's a token, you manage it with your email address, great. That was the kind of smooth experience that we felt was critical to actually hit scale of user onboarding. And yeah, experience has been good. I think the Docker early on was a bit rusty. It's still a little bit rusty. We're always like spamming the dev team. We have probably a good relationship with them now. They're a little too familiar with us because we do come back a lot, and we do sort of rigorously point out any time the Docker's wrong or a bit short. as we recognize that it's not just for us, but like getting more developers on is critical to the health of the ecosystem. So I think it's getting better, and I think the Passport release of Passport is going to help a lot. That certainly speeds things up, and having a ZK EVM, which we're not using yet, but we might use in the future for a sort of extended staking system.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a alpha, I believe. There will also be a way to stay gas free for users potentially with ZK EVM as well. So if that's one of the barriers, maybe that could be happening in the future. So stay tuned to that.
Yeah, that's some
Yeah,
news.
I mean, there is some news. There is some proper alpha. I was not aware of that one.
Yeah.
So the next question was going to be what tools are you using, but you kind of went over it with saying that you're using the Passport, which is a great idea. It's for me personally, I think that the Web2 gamer that is already so used to having like a 2FA set up with their email address and everything, so that they have a way to recover their accounts that way as well. So just being able to track your NFTs and your coins or assets that way, just with your email is huge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also just like you can't underestimate the importance of gasless, because it means for a new player coming in, they're not spending anything to start playing. We at least like you might want to gate your game that way. So we might have like a $20 pass for non-NFT holders before they can start producing NFTs. That stops rampant farming and other inflationary issues. But you at least don't have to, just learn anything about crypto to start benefiting from your gameplay achievements. They just drop in your wallet, just like they would drop in your normal inventory in game. I think that piece is key, and it's one that sometimes gets overlooked when people hype about other chains.
Cool. So you're going to use a different type of authentication system at the start that's called Link or something, but in the future you might be changing to Passport when it's available.
Yeah. So Link SDK was actually sort of Immutable's equivalent of Passport before Passport. So it's a little bit more basic, but we built our own system, which it just was a nice connection from Unreal to Link with just a simple sort of page where you jump on the page, you link your wallet once, and then it's done. And you can add multiple wallets to your game account. So you can have, because we know a lot of people often have 2 to 3 wallets. So we let you link 2 to 3 wallets to the one game account, so you can share characters across those couple of wallets and share items and get utility from all of them together. And that was just a bit easier to do initially with Link, and then Passport came out later. So we actually did most of the blockchain development 12 months ago. We built really all the complex blockchain stuff up front, because myself and like the next senior hire were both sort of blockchain-y experienced folks. So we were very strong in that area. We got that stuff down pat quickly. And then, the slow stuff is, mostly now art, game development art, and tweaking, combat for different classes and making that feel good and look good. That ends up being the slowest part of game development, actually.
Yeah.
So I think the next question I want to hear this one though. No one has been able to say anything bad about IMX yet. So let's have you be the first. What's the hardest part working with IMX?
Look, I do think there's a hole there with there not being like a strong first party marketplace. So if you're a new user coming onto IMX, you want to probably go to an official feeling marketplace. There is an Immutable hosted marketplace, but it's missing critical features like the ability to send NFTs to other wallets in a point and click sort of way, a point and click way to pull it to mainnet, to take an NFT from Immutable X to mainnet, to bridge, I should say, and just a few other stats that you might expect on sites like Blur and OpenSea. That lack of an official marketplace can't simply be filled with some of the third-party marketplaces that we get pointed to, partly because those ones often take a fee to list your project, and that's an inhibitor on the ecosystem's growth. You think, like, why did OpenSea get so big? Well, it was because it was free to list, and the documentation was good enough that people were able to jump on as small time folks and create many projects, which did lead to a lot of junk projects, but it also led to a lot of junk projects that turned into big projects. And it led to a growth of developer knowledge that meant that big projects chose OpenSea originally to sort of launch on, because there was enough dev sort of Docker and discussion out there to work their way through it. So I think maybe Immutable were a little bit slow to realize that you do need to support the really small tier devs. You can't just go for the big sort of white labeling partnerships, your GameStops and such. You do need to make sure that like the path to growth to being a really big platform is actually the small players, not the big showcase sort of partnerships. So I think like they're probably not yet leaning as much to that side as I would hope. Like I think there's a little more support they can give to the small time devs, first time blockchain devs. The doco is still not perfect in that onboarding experience. Still some complexities around signatures and that kind of thing. So there's some smoothing out to do, and I think probably polishing off the marketplace would be the most impactful thing they could do in the short term. Just to make sure that people could go somewhere they trust, it's associated with the brand, it does all the things they expect a marketplace to do, and that saves all those small devs time, because we're all time poor, right? As smaller projects or smaller studios, not having to build our own freaking marketplace is a huge time saving. So you want to get that right.
That was the first time I've heard of that. That there's marketplaces that charge to have you listed. That's
yeah, like Token Trove, I'm pretty sure it's like 1 or 2 ETH last time I looked, which is like not a huge barrier for like us. We raise sort of a good amount, but for small players, that's a barrier, right? They're going to choose the platform that doesn't charge them. That's risk, right? Pre-funding and pre-sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong in what you said either, because the reality of the situation is, if you make the barrier to entry for the smaller projects, you have the tools there for them. Those are the ones that are going to keep coming back, right, and build that following. So I see what you're talking about, and I feel that with a global order book, it somewhat outweighs it, but you still need to get a foot in the door with a certain marketplace or two. So
yeah, no, that's crazy that they charge to list when it's a global order book, and there's other marketplaces that just list your order anyway for free.
Yeah, so they're charging you for a UI, basically, those third-party marketplaces, and they're only able to do that because Immutable's own UI is just like missing some really not crazy features, right? It's ones they could definitely do, just haven't been prioritized.
Like the excuse has been that they don't want to cut the lunch of their partners because of the global order book, that they don't want to make theirs feature rich that makes everyone else useless. So, that's the reason why they haven't gone out. I've heard them say that multiple times, that they're not, they're making
but saying that is one thing, and knowing that it's a glaring issue is another thing, right? Because like when if I want to swap tokens on IMX, you can't now. Like they used to have the ability to do that, but you had to buy an NFT that represented something, right, and then swap it. But
you're just transferring between wallets, which is like half the reason people went to OpenSea, was just a simplistic interface to see what's in my wallets and transfer between them. And if you incorporate that basic functionality, you're going to get people who are just a bit more comfortable with the ecosystem. Because I see so many people say they haven't heard of Immutable X. They come on and they're like, I don't know where the marketplace is. How do I transfer an NFT between my wallets? And it's like, okay, well, here's this long-winded explanation of how to, that's already a bad user experience. We're having to explain to our users how to do things. That's not good.
Very good points. I think that was pretty fair, and criticism that's fair, and what I'm not trying to be. You did it in a nice way, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we're running out of time. We're running out of time, so we've got to play our game. Like you might notice that I play games on Twitter, but this one we play on our pod is we get you to guess what your peak monthly active users will be in your game, and we track it over years. And we also have a guest later on, and we will see it come back and and when your game launches and it hits its peak monthly active users, we'll come back and see who was right. So it's a long game, but
A very long game. Yeah, sure.
For
good. I mean,
Chronoforge,
you have like the range, right? People usually give you a range, like a sensible range. So, I think we'd be happy with like a 50K. You can, in the Web3 space, actually generate a lot of revenue off 50K monthly users, because the wallet spend per user is actually a lot higher. But we look at games like V Rising that showed you that a small game that mashed up genres well, did all the small things right, doesn't need 100 hours of content, needs maybe just like 50 hours of high quality content. We look at a game like that, and they've got like millions of users. They probably hit a peak active of a couple 100,000. I think that's the target. Like, you can't set your sights low. So we'll be setting our sights for let's say 200,000 peak monthly, maybe higher. And I think that's achievable with the mix of features we have. We just got to make sure we do that final polish, and we get the marketing exposure towards the end that's required.
So how much is your peak monthly active user? You think, what's the goal? What's your guess? Sorry, I didn't quite hear it.
Let's say peak monthly, probably 500,000. Let's see if we can get there. That's a crazy target, but
500,000.
500,000, yeah.
Okay, cool. I reckon you're going to go higher than that. I reckon you'll get hit at least 1 million. But I'll think about it and guess proper later on in the episode.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're very like conservative minded here. We don't like make sort of wild predictions. Our community will like have picked up with that. Like, after the sort of initial hype phase, we're very just like clinical in our communications and making sure everyone like has a good understanding of like what happens in game development, what the timeframes are, and what the expected growth and that sort of thing is, without being like financial advisors. Just keeping it real. I think that's important to make sure people understand like these games should not be your day job. They should be a nice upside potentially to playing. But it's a play and earn. It's not gonna be play to earn, most likely, for some time, until Web3 really explodes.
I'm super excited by the game, mate. Like, honestly, once I've started researching it recently, you've seen me do a few tweets about it. I think I've just I love that style of game, and I've got my Web2 mates lined up to play it. So they hate crypto with a passion, but I've got them the ability to play it. So I told them there's no crypto.
That's awesome.
Tokens. I've told them it's no NFTs that I want them. It's just a game. Look at the game. Showed them a video, and they're keen to play it. So I think you maybe not are realizing what you've hit here. This art style combined with the type of game style is what people are looking for. They're not looking for the dark Diablo style art style. I hate it. I literally spent $110 on a game that I hate. So I can't wait to play your game.
That's what we're feeling. We like, that's why we went there, because we're making a game that we want to play, and sometimes that works really well, like more than any huge market survey you can do. If you just have played a lot of games and your friends and you all sort of have the same vibe, that vision can sometimes be clearer than just doing a survey of US users or Indonesian or Phil's users, who it is, to sort of shape your game. We've gone much more on what's a great game that would make it feel fresh and fun for us. And that means poppier colors. It means a good positive vibe. And it means, bigger raids, 10-man raids. It means lots of classes to play with, lots of races, and some big dilemmas to work out this sort of global mechanic of the different settlements battling it out. So yeah, it's going to be hopefully something that especially those former WoW players who want a more bite-sized, positive, fun experience to jump back into, it should be that. And it being totally opt-in on the crypto side, we can hopefully get all those Web2 folks on board, try it out, slowly convert them. They can see the value of having their character as a token long-term. And I do actually have one little sneak peek for you guys to finish, if that's all right. It's actually a little bit of dialogue. Usually you have a visual sneak peek for these things, but folks can hop on our website and see the gameplay. It looks really good. They can see the visuals. Somewhere where we are actually also putting a lot of effort is the voice acting and making sure our story, which is deep and it's got some resonance with global issues that folks are experiencing right now, hoping that comes through. If you're all good with it, I'll play a little clip now, and folks can sort of vibe on that and think about the game that is going to be.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, here we go.
Promise, progress, power. Kronos and the Forges have taken once modest endeavors to new heights and scales. But as the titans of this industrial age started to roar, a rift began to form in our hearts and in our planet's core. We can't all have it all, is something my mother used to say. No, but we did try.
I love it.
There you go.
I,
A brooding finish to your.
I'm sitting here looking at the OpenSea adventurers right now. I'm looking at one of the cats here that you, and I'm just picturing like Puss in Boots, right, with that voice acting. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And if you hop on the Twitter, you can have a look at the character selection with the 3D characters that you'll get in game. We will be updating the NFT artwork to look as the 3D characters do in game as well. So that pixel art style will eventually be fully wiped away once every piece of armor is modeled. As I said, we're committed to converting every little bit of pixel art to a perfect 3D representation. So that'll probably be just another month or so, and then you'll see that switch over to the NFT artwork to a shiny 3D experience.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Just to wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us about the game. I'm honestly looking at probably purchasing a couple of these right now because they're so low on OpenSea. But honestly, it's been awesome. I'm looking forward to being able to play the game.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, definitely hop in, grab some adventurers so you can join in the holders playtest in the next week or two, and we'll see you there. You know, hopefully smashing dinos on the head or getting smashed by some big dinos in that playtest and having fun.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much for your time, Lachlan. We really appreciate it. You know, we'll be following the release as it comes towards the end of the year.
Great. No worries. Thanks very much, guys. And yeah, hello to all my Immutable family out there. Looking forward to see everything that everyone else develops in the next couple of months as well.
We have another exciting guest to speak to, another Immutable employee, which is crowd favorites. A lot of people asking us to interview more people from the Immutable team itself. So we've got Steve from the Solutions Engineering team. How are you going, mate?
Hey, great to be here.
Awesome. Let's get straight into it, hey? We're a bit limited for time, so Steve's very busy because of all the games they're winning. Do you want to go over, give us a bit of a rundown of who you are, what led you to Immutable, and what your role is there? That's a lot of questions. You can go on for a while if you like.
So, yeah, I head up solution engineering for Immutable globally. So we're spread out over the US, EMEA, and APAC. And the solution engineering team, they're really a sort of tech resource that's there right at the start of the engagement with every customer. So they're a pre-sales team. So they're the tech people that you can speak to before you've actually, settled the contractuals and decided to go with Immutable. And it's largely because when you've got a platform, a really large platform like Immutable that has so many different capabilities, and you've got a really massive problem space like Web3, that's really hard to navigate. That's pretty much impossible to navigate unless you can, get access to some developers, some people who can get right down into the weeds. And that's largely what our team does. So we work with the sales team, and we're there right from the start all the way through to the end of that process. And we help the studios map game mechanics to Web3 outcomes, make sure they're able to get the best out of the platform, and kind of go down whatever rabbit hole it is they want to go down. So we can talk to any topic, whether it's something very crypto specific or whether it's more gameplay mechanisms that we're talking about.
Sweet. So you get to see these games, these projects come to you, and you get to direct them down. Hey, this is when you want to do the crafting or something like that in the game. This is how you're going to be able to do it, and provide the solutions for these projects to kind of usher in the ease of use and stuff for them.
Yeah, and we're also probably the first point where they'll get like a bit of pushback. So a lot of the time, if the other option that you've got in market is a build it yourself approach. So really it's kind of buy versus build. We're the buy option, and then build would be you go out there and you pick a chain, and then you pick your wallet, and then you pick your marketplace, then you pick your indexer, and you kind of piecemeal all the pieces together. And if you talk to any one component, that really narrows what you're discussing. And so if you pitch them a particular idea, they'll go, yeah, we can accommodate it in this way. But once you're trying to solve the whole problem, you're at that platform level, then often what we're doing is throwing cold water on ideas and saying, well, I know that that's really big on crypto Twitter right now, but have you thought about the much more super important parts of this, which is the game itself, the gameplay, the players. So I think it is a very different experience a lot of the time talking to us, in that we don't just say, yeah, we'll accommodate anything. We often kind of challenge a lot of those assumptions that they're coming with as well.
Oh, cool. So it's for the audience that might not be aware of what a pre-sales role is in a tech product. You come into the picture after sales, or
No, we come in right at the same time. So the sales team and the solution engineers are both coming in as a pair, and this is our sales team is mainly focused on the larger end of the deal. So we're talking large, often pre-existing game industry game studios with big teams, large funding. It's sort of at that size. For the smaller teams, then that may just be one person, but that also might be they're coming in through the website. So if you go to hub.immutable.com, you can directly get access to the product. So if you're talking to us, you're usually talking to us because you're a large studio and you've got a developer team who's got a ton of questions and they need to start working through problems.
Gotcha. Different to what I thought. So it's actually depending on the need of the organization is when you get involved. That's quite interesting. What do you like about the job? What's the part you really enjoy?
Oh, it's the best job in the world. I mean, hands down.
Really?
I love it. It's so the great thing that solution engineering allows you to do is chop and change constantly. You're able to talk to such a diverse number of companies and organizations. You're able to tackle all the problems right at the most interesting point when you're still kind of trying to brainstorm how you're going to solve them. And then you just move on to the next one. So, the tough thing often as a developer is the fun bit is at the start, or the fun bit for me was always at the start when we were brainstorming and architecting it. And then when it got down to the grunt work of, writing the code, I often started to lose interest, especially after the first 10 years of being a developer. And solution engineering is just wonderful for that. You're just going from problem to problem, and you don't have to be there banging your head against the door, against a Node.js update or something like that. So it's a fantastic job. And then to be able to combine that with gaming and Web3, it couldn't get any better.
Cool.
Awesome.
Did you have a back? Oh, do you want to go?
Go ahead.
Did you have a background in gaming development, or was it just a normie dev?
No, I wouldn't dare claim that. So I think that's one thing that you quickly learn about the game industry is they have a real strong pride of, they have been in the trenches, they've been in the games industry. No, I'm a gamer. I'm a huge gamer, have been my whole life. Really struggled with a World of Warcraft addiction in my 20s.
Who didn't?
I still am a big gamer today as well. As much as it's a struggle to find the time when you've got kids. So I'm really passionate about the game industry, but as a gamer, I kind of always acknowledge that I'm not from the industry itself.
Yeah, so I kind of noticed that in like your meeting it head on and saying like, hey, say a game wants to do something just for the sake of doing it, and you kind of meet it head on and say, but why? How does that help the game mechanic, and what is it actually doing for gameplay, right? So that was an interesting, unique way to look at it too, especially for from the eyes of a gamer.
Yeah, and it's also about trying to think about a gamer who is interested and excited about the idea of owning property or owning property that exists in game worlds. I think the the thing that has yet to be decided in Web3, and we'll see which way it goes, is whether or not the most successful approach is simply mapping pre-existing approaches, like the sort of loops that we see in free-to-play games, to their tokenized equivalents, or if it's much more like premium property. So if you look at a game like Star Citizen, where they were pre-Web3 selling, individual spaceships for hundreds of dollars, we could see that approach. And typically studios will come with one or the other. They'll lean one way, on that spectrum, they'll be in one direction or the other. And it's often the discussion is about challenging them with the opposing, sort of being the devil's advocate and saying to the team, for example, who's really seeing this as premium property, hey, have you thought about the way that tokens, ERC20 tokens could fit into this? And for those coming with, very kind of almost Axie Infinity style complex flows where you've got multiple token types and the tokens interact with different things, saying, well, have you thought of simplifying this and just treating it like they're a consumer and you're producing products and you're just selling them those products?
Yeah,
absolutely.
very, very interesting how this turns out in the end. I think my biggest thing that I think about that I don't see people talking about is the player motivation. So for example, Gods Unchained and Axie Infinity, when I play Gods Unchained, because I'm bad, about $1 a day. When I played Axie Infinity, I was making sometimes $40, $50 a day. I've never ever sold a Gods Unchained token for cash, but I definitely did that for Axie Infinity. What point does my motivation change from playing Gods Unchained for fun to playing it for money? What dollar do I have to earn per day before that converts over? And when that point happens, that Gods Unchained economy instantly becomes unsustainable. So there's this tipping point, a scales kind of effect of player motivation determining the outcome of the economy. What do you think about that comment?
You can buy the market, and you see this. You see this all the time right now. In fact, always for us in the market at any given time, there'll be a point solution, for example, that will, whether it's a chain or a wallet, they'll have a large amount of funds and they'll be trying to buy the customers, and it's not sustainable for them. With a lot of the play to earn mechanics, it was the same thing. It was ultimately, VC money that was trying to buy a user base. It's as simple as that. And so if that's your approach, you have to acknowledge it's only ever going to be a short-term thing. Unless you have infinite money somehow, then you're always eventually going to run up against the economic reality that that's not scalable. I think with Web3 gaming, there is going to be the crypto native portion will always kind of be the most motivated by that return, or even thinking about it in terms of return on investment. But I think for this to get into the mainstream gamer audience, which is ultimately, that's the prize, that's the big addressable market. That's the difference between the billion players that are out there and the very big question mark around how many actual crypto native players there are. For them, you can look to other things as to what the motives are. And those other things would be, any kind of, anything you could buy at a board game shop, whether it's the board games themselves, whether it's, 40K miniatures, whether it's Magic the Gathering cards. You can also see this in video game stores. In all of these places, you have already these loops of players going in, buying desirable products, trying them out, playing around with them, coming back in, trading them in, and buying something else. And that whole cycle of buying in, trying out, trading in, that happens without them making profit. They're constantly putting money into those hobbies and that entertainment as something they find enjoyable. But the fact that in that process they are owning things, it's their property and they have property rights over it, that actually enhances how much they enjoy it. And the games industry hasn't not provided that because they're, there's some Machiavellian, executive rubbing their hands together. They've just not had the technology. They've not been able to offer players property until now. And now they have that technology. So the possibilities of that are limitless in the same way that a company, let's say you had a theme park that was running all these rides and they weren't able to sell anything to the people that were in the theme park. Suddenly they realized they can sell them popcorn and, stuffed toys. what else they could sell them, the things they could sell them is effectively unlimited. There's so many different options they can do. But at no point in that exchange do people walk away thinking of them as investment vehicles.
That's a very big point, right? Seeing that, how to bridge that gap between playing because it's a fun game, and rather than that financial incentive to do so, and at what point would any financial incentive to play even be sustainable, right? And being on top of that and being in the trenches, if you will, like what have been some of your most difficult, ones to try to navigate?
I think this is where a lot of the time the kind of the people trying to replicate Axie Infinity are the ones that were if you're really at the extreme end of that, those are the ones where we kind of have to talk you down from that, because it is a mathematical impossibility. You can't, distribute funds out to players greater than the amount of funds going in. It's perfectly fine to move money around between players. So if you have a pool of players that are trading back and forth with each other, and the money accrues, at a small minority of them, that's fine as long as that is a fair market where people are okay with that. So whether that's because it's competitive and it's tournament based, or because it's, you're trading and there's a meta game that's changing the price of those items over time, and there's heaps of ways in which you can have these effects still occur and they're in a fair way. But anytime you have a model where you're just taking funds from the new players and giving them to the old players, we already have a name for that. It's already a name for that model. It's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So I mean, the other interesting thing about Ponzi schemes is that they don't really have room in the market for more than one. So the question that I've asked everyone when this topic's being discussed is who is second place to Axie Infinity?
Peg Axie probably, wasn't it? Or Crabata, which was it not even 2% of what?
Yeah,
Axie
I don't
Infinity
even. Yeah, if it was even that close.
I think it was Crabata, and they did 200 million. So compared to 4 billion.
I'll put you in the top 1%, because I've literally asked that question well over 100 times now, and I would confidently say that it'd be about 1% of people have any answer, even a guess.
Yeah.
Most people have no idea who the number 2 was, because that's how Ponzi schemes operate. There's room in the market for one, and then they just suck all the oxygen out of the room. There's no ability to sustain another one. Whereas what we know is that the games industry can absolutely, have a vast number of games and is better for it. The more games that are coming in, the bigger that pie grows. And so one thing that I think people get quite sort of worried about is, as these mainstream games come in, what's that going to do to the sort of more degen end of the market? And if you're looking only at the sort of the size of the pie in percentage terms, then it will look like that's shrinking. And in fact, I think it'll shrink to pretty much about the same size of the indie market that we see in gaming right now. But if you look at the size of the pie, so it's a much overall smaller percentage, but of a much, much bigger pie, then that's where you see the benefits. That, yeah, this does.
I want to support what you said as well, from an observation I've made a couple of times. Axie Infinity, its point of cliff was, its peak was about 8 months or after the first rise, 6 or 7 months it lasted, and then it went off the cliff.
Yep.
Crabata was about 2 months after it was released, it went off a cliff. Peg Axie was about a month after it went after it was had mass adoption, and then Crypto Unicorns, which I'm involved in, its peak was before the game released, a couple of days before. Now, their game isn't really a complete and utter Ponzi. If you play forever, it might be if they don't add any more content, but they're constantly building and adding content. But my point was, people were playing it because they thought it was going to be that money stream, and people are learning that these things don't last, and it's getting shorter and shorter time frames for how long they last for. If you get what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And that whole sort of early phase of Web3 gaming, I think it'll be a bit of a shock to that community how much that is not, it doesn't have this huge sort of influence on the gaming industry's sort of use of this technology. They're going to come in and really be speaking to and marketing to the mainstream gamer, and the focus will be just on property. Here is this interesting bit of property we've got for you that we think you'll find desirable, and because it is backed by the blockchain, it is actually your property in a very literal sense. I think that is ultimately the thing that will appeal. A lot of the complexity around the trading systems and having multiple tokens and so on, I don't think it'll kind of appeal to those wider gamer audiences.
But one thing that I did notice is that for like a traditional game like Call of Duty, it's carrying over for the next release. Your in-game items will still be there for like the first time ever, like for the upcoming release. So like I think mainstream gaming is catching on to the fact that like a lot of these gamers are like they put in so many hours to unlock these skins, and they just have to redo it the next time around, which is part of the grind that a lot of these gamers do it for. But they're starting to catch on to that. They like these unlocked things that they've gotten.
It is very. I mean, that is definitely. I would hope that is definitely them responding to Web3. I think it's very similar to crypto at large, where you saw sort of TradFi start to kind of get their house in order because they could see how far ahead crypto was in some areas. And they kicked those processes off. They were making those improvements before crypto had really properly came into the mainstream market. I'm seeing a couple of things that I'm seeing where I'm like, maybe this is them responding to Web3. So that's a great example of assistance across games, because that's going to be a huge value of Web3. But I'm also seeing this with some of the companies in the game industry attempting to offer, there is one I know of right now that is trying to do NFTs without blockchain. So they say, well, we're a trusted brand, so you can run all of your digital assets on our, I think they're probably just using some sort of big data backend like Kafka or something. You can run it all on this traditional system, and we'll look after all of that, and you can trust us, and you don't need to worry about any of this blockchain stuff. And where you end up with is you basically got something that's no different to the Steam marketplace. We already have that in market. We already see how far that can go. So it is going to be interesting. We're going to see the game industry kind of react to this, but those kind of reactions, those counter reactions, they're going to have no hope. That will be very hard to kind of make that go mainstream when you've got Web3 coming in.
I want to change direction again back to the role, and because I had this thought. You talked about how it's the most wonderful job in the world, and you love it because of what you do. How did the recent ZK EVM announcement change your role, and what was the result? Can you talk about that? The impact of that on your role.
Well, it was yesterday, so
what, you haven't had time to absorb it yet?
No, you've been talking to clients about ZK EVM. You've signed 20 people.
So I'm only joking. Look, we've been lucky to be able to have access to all of that, and we're really tight with the product team as well. So we've been across it, and it has changed our role massively, because a year ago we were out there in market with ZK Rollup, which was an application-specific one. So it only did the minting and trading of assets. That's all it did. It didn't have the ability to support arbitrary smart contracts. And there are some benefits to that. The big benefits still are that it is incredibly scalable, much more scalable than a normal type of full blockchain rollup. And that we can, because it's so predictable, we can make it gas free, because we know exactly what the cost per mint and per trade is going to be. So now that we have the smart contract capabilities as well, then a lot of what in the past we'd have to say no to, or we'd have to solve with a trusted solutions being the most common approach. Now it's a case of, you can use a smart contract to do that. And so it's made the role a lot more complex. And I think for myself and a lot of the team, it means that we're really going to have to brush up on those Solidity skills and a lot of those core blockchain skills, because up until now, a lot of the conversations have purely been around, how do I do this only at the API level? You can still do everything at the API level with ZK EVM, but yeah, again, you've got those smart contracts there now as well.
Yeah. We talked about this API in our latest pod, or it was in the Twitter Spaces we did, or the X Spaces we did, just dedicated to ZK EVM. So if people don't know what APIs are on that, you can go and listen to that to catch up on it. But yeah, I thought that ZK EVM is going to change the role like pretty much completely. Like the conversations are, this is how you'd have to get around that point. But now it's like here's every solution you need is available now. Which one do you need? And this is what we know and how we can suggest you use this platform. One quick question as well included in that is, can customers integrate both StarkX and Polygon ZK EVM's solutions into their one game, or is it not advised, or not capable, or not available?
Not advised. Capable, but not advised. For now, what we're saying to everyone is, look, expect to see a lot of our focus being on ZK EVM and getting that bedded in and rolled out. We will revisit how we can blend the two together. But today, even right at the start of your kind of developer journey, we say pick a path and stick to it, because we know that you're going to run into a lot of things that we're not going to have a solution for you right out of the gate. And we'd rather you just kind of pick one environment, double down, stick on that, and then that way, also when you're looking from the documentation standpoint, it's clearly spelled out, okay, here are the constraints and here's how it behaves. So yeah, look, you can use a blended model, but we would kind of stress to people to make your life simpler, pick one and stick to it. And for most people, I think it is increasingly going to be the ZK EVM environment that they'll be using.
Yeah, when you have that scalability with all of the security as well, and being able to take it and use the customized smart contracts, there really is no reason not to. And then also the actual gas fees being minimal as well, being layer 2. So amazing stuff. I'm super excited to see what's to come. What's one of your so far one of your biggest challenges, other than telling people no when they want to just do anything they want?
Well, one of the more interesting challenges is having to explain to game studios who don't want to use smart contracts why this is exciting.
There you go.
That's a conversation.
Yeah.
And so we wrote a whole blog post about this as well, talking about how smart contracts really change the nature of what's possible. And there's two ways that I like to frame this for game studios who are not crypto natives at all. One is that smart contracts allow you to, with every NFT that we're using, and you'll notice that I use the term NFT pretty rarely. I tend to use, say, digital asset for pure branding reasons. But for every digital asset, you've got to have utility associated with it. So the big sort of reason why a lot of the kind of activity we saw in the PFP ecosystem fell apart or didn't really go far beyond kind of being a type of altcoin speculation was they were NFTs without any utility. And if they had utility, it was no further than it just had an image attached to it. So that's a pretty low value, very easy to produce and produce it at massive scale, and there's not really much benefit to it. Whereas with everything we're dealing with, everything has utility. It has something that makes that asset valuable. And the great thing and exciting thing about ZK EVM is that the types of utility you can now create will last forever. They're forever utility. So in Gods Unchained running on Immutable X, you can buy, trade, mint the cards, but you can't craft on Immutable X without it being a trusted solution. So if we fast forward 200 years in time, and sadly 200 years in the future, Gods Unchained is no longer running, which that'll never happen. Gods Unchained's a forever property. It's going to be running in 200 years' time. But assuming that the multiplayer servers are shut down, It's confidence, I know.
That
I'm
Australian
I
ad.
am 100% certain that Gods Unchained will still be running in 200 years' time. But pretending that it isn't, and those multiplayer servers are down and it's gone, you've got still a collectible, and it still has the ability to burn it, to trade it, and so on. But the crafting no longer works. That's gone. That was a trusted solution. You move over to smart contracts, and now a lot of that functionality becomes forever functionality. It will work forever, and that's really where the excitement comes from for on-chain gameplay, which is still very much kind of a far future thing. For now, that's mainly indie. So that is a really kind of sort of high concept piece. And for the game studios, that's interesting, but obviously you're kind of talking about reasons why the players will be excited in the event that they disappeared. So that's in itself is not a huge appeal. The second then is much more of an appeal, and this is about the quality of the asset. Is a lot more of that functionality ceases to be trusted solutions. So with the crafting flow in Immutable X, you have to put the cards into an escrow wallet. They check the contents of that wallet using a back-end server, and then they call an API to mint the new card into your wallet. And that whole setup there relies on that server being a trusted authority to do all that for you. It is much, much more, it's much safer and much more in the consumer's interest to have all that on the blockchain.
Yeah, all of that being a smart contract so that it's verifiable there with others to see and verify themselves too.
Exactly, so and that makes for a higher quality asset. That is a better asset doing it that way than it is where you've got that trusted setup.
So this leads me to a question about the Zika EVM changes, the gas fees. So one of the major reasons I got behind Immutable was like gas free. I can see the ability to make a frictionless experience for gamers. Zika EVM introduces gas fees and therefore potentially more friction for gamers. How do you see that playing out? And, do you agree that the gas fees could be a bit of an issue with mass adoption? And how are you approaching it as a salesperson when having conversations with these games developers companies?
Yeah, it's just the nature of it being a very different type of roll-up. With any kind of blockchain solution, you've really kind of only got two mechanisms to stop DDoS attacks. You can either have it as an application-specific rollup where you access it purely through APIs, and then your way of preventing DDoS attacks is the same you do with all APIs. So you have API gateways that block, someone trying to spam the network. And so that's a huge advantage to application-specific rollups. But in the world of blockchains where you've got full smart contract functionality, they already have a recognized mechanism to do this, which is gas. Gas is the way that they prevent DDoS attacks because you are paying for every attack that you're doing, and it very quickly ceases to make sense. And that has been pretty effective. There are still gas spikes, but that's very different to someone actively trying to, slam the network with pointless messages. So gas is necessary. The reason why an application-specific rollup allows you to sidestep it is because it just constrains what you can do on it to a very predictable set of functions. And then we can estimate, okay, this is what it's going to cost us to run, and so we can then offset that and then make it gas-free for everyone. So that's when we talk to the studios, we don't kind of mince words, we don't kind of promise something that's not there, we just explain this is the nature of these roll-ups. The more interesting question is the one you said about, what is the impact to the gamer? And that's something that we have to solve for. And that's not something that we've just left unsolved. So yes, we've brought gas back, but we've also then in the years since Immutable X launched, we have now got solutions for what the impact to the gamer is. So the biggest one is Passport. And you'll often hear Passport referred to as a wallet, but that's probably a bit unfair. Passport's much broader than that. Think of Passport as your whole end consumer experience.
Let me jump in there because I literally just got out of a user experience UX research for the Passport, and it's not fair to call it just a wallet because it is way more. And at the end of the interview, I was like, I actually said those words. I'm like, you can't actually call it a wallet, but it is a wallet. And I was sitting there like kind of dumbfounded. So yeah.
It's better to say it contains wallets. It has wallets under the hood as part of the solution.
Exactly.
But the long-term goal with Passport is to make it so that a gamer with no awareness of blockchain is able to come in and safely buy, trade, and use digital assets, digital goods that they purchase. And it's also not intended to be a general purpose wallet. So you can't just take it and go onto Uniswap and make trades. If you want to do that, we can link other wallets to Passport, and you can, exit funds out to your MetaMask, and then you can go back out wherever you want from there. So we never compromise ownership. We never compromise on decentralization. These are all ultimately the kind of hard requirements that we have, but we do make the user experience, the baseline experience, as smooth and as easy as possible. And that's what Passport is, and all of its components is there to solve for. And so one of the components in Passport is a gas relay. So coming back to the original question of how do we, if we're going to reintroduce gas, how do we not impact the gamers? One of the easiest ways to do this is to centralize all the gas costs, and then have the studio pay for them. Most of those gas costs are going to be pretty minor anyway. So they can centralize the gas, they'll cover it themselves for all of their assets, and then you end back up with something that's effectively gas-free. That's one option. The other option is that you transfer a certain amount of IMX tokens to each user, and they then just have that there available to pay gas costs as they come up. That's the other approach.
How do you prevent the exploitation of that? People bots making mass wallets, making mass accounts on games, and then just burning all that gas for free.
Yeah, that's why the relayer is probably going to be the better option for a while. The problem of bots is probably something we'll tackle next year. So there is a Sybil resistance problem that we'll have to tackle, and there are ways for us to do that today with partners, but I think increasingly we'll bake that into Passport as well.
Absolutely. Wow. Honestly, I'm just sitting here in awe of honestly, the guy has an answer to everything, and it makes sense that he is a solutions engineer.
And the manager of the team. I heard that D'Souza's looking for a job in Web3 and he's an engineer. So maybe you can line up later on.
Hey, look, you give me a call. If you speak Mandarin, I'm hiring.
Ni hao.
That's all. That's all I need to hear. Yep, we're gonna send it through.
Send it in and through.
I know you got a bit of a hard stop soon, Steve. So we did want to ask a question about what's your favorite thing about Immutable? What's something that Immutable could do better?
Favorite thing about Immutable, I kind of covered this before. Working in the intersection of video games and blockchain, I'm the luckiest guy. Like this, I can't imagine anywhere more enjoyable and more. You're right at the bleeding edge. You have so much ability to influence the direction the way things are going. It's incredibly exciting. I'm off to Gamescom next week, so there's the ability to go to the video game industry conferences. As a gamer, I'm as happy as anything. And then I'm going to give a really kind of annoying answer to the one of what I would change, which is I don't have that as a day-to-day problem at Immutable. So I've worked in mainly big corporates. That's where solution engineers come from. That's where the practice comes from. It's Salesforce started it, and then all the other big tech companies added that function to their sales organization. And there are 1,000,001 different things I would change at those companies, and that I would have on a wish list, because there'd be no way to actually have that influence. Immutable is still in that startup type phase where, and it also has hired for a type of person where you can literally jump into anyone's calendar and hop on a call and say, hey, I think this is going to be a problem, or heads up, this is the issue we've got. And so the ability to change and influence is unlimited here. You really do not you shouldn't be running into that as a problem that you've got something on a list, a secret wish list of things you'd like to change, because you just can literally pick up the call and call anyone. And that goes all the way to the top as well. Like I'll corner Robbie and James and Alex at various points and dump on them some problem or thoughts that I had, and that's always well received. So I know that's a bit of a pat answer to have nothing but praise, but it is really quite honest. I don't have like a long list of outstanding issues that I often think of.
So you being a gamer yourself, of some of the upcoming games, what has you most excited?
I'm really excited about just of late. I've kind of cycled through all of them. So what's really interesting about what we're doing is there's a real cold start problem in Web3. So a lot of the approaches taken, maybe they'll have something that has, a platform that's gamer facing. I don't think there are actually many that truly are. But of those that are in that state, they don't have and never will have many games. Like they're kind of trying to kickstart the whole process with maybe two sort of AA sized games. And the thing that Immutable has done is we've got this studio arm, and we have 5 games that are all about to kind of go into open beta at the end of this year, and then actually go live all about the same time around the sort of 1/3 of the way into next year. And that's going to be incredibly exciting, because that is where we're going to have all these players coming in, and they're not going to be able to have just one experience. They're then going to be able to cycle through and try all the games. And all of that benefits every other game and gamer that enters the ecosystem. So I've kind of gone through every single one of these studio games at various points and swapped my favorites. So I was obsessed with Metalcore, and then I was obsessed with Shardbound. And I think just recently, the one that has really jumped to the top for me is Guild of Guardians. They recently did their Beautiful Corner playtest. Yeah. And they previously, they had a kind of a dungeon crawler that was good, but it wasn't grabbing me. Certainly wasn't my favorite game type. But they've now swapped it out for.
Sorry, I gave feedback pretty critical of it.
It was in a rough state, but it was in an early state. Like, I should be really clear. When I was looking at it, really pre-alpha, super early. So I don't want to put the GOG team down in that sense. But they've recently retooled it so it is a roguelike, and I'm obsessed with roguelikes. I love roguelike games. So I think I'm really excited about that. I'm really keen to see a roguelike game in Web3 as well. And also, the other exciting thing about GOG is it is mobile, and that is a whole step order function in terms of complexity again. Getting Passport into a mobile game and making it so that experience is seamless, that's the real hard problem. And GOG is going to be leading the charge on the mobile front as well.
Yeah, I'll have to agree on that one. Actually, Rubik and I were fortunate enough to be participants in that as well. So that Beautiful Corner demo was amazing. So definitely looking forward to that.
Amazing.
Well, that's we're getting up to our end time now. Steve, is there anything you want to add that we haven't covered, or what we said we're going to cover that we didn't?
No, I don't. I don't have anything else top of my. I know that's a terrible answer. I probably should have had something prepared.
Good, mate. You covered everything.
You're good.
Great interviewers. We got it all covered.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure having you, man. Really appreciate your time and depth of knowledge to share with us. Looking forward to the future, and hope to have you on again sometime in the next year or so, and show us tell us how everything's going. And it's only one more year of the 199 more years that Gods Unchained needs to be around. So we got to have a yearly checkup.
Look, I'll hijack that, and I'll make that my final call, which is, everyone is always saying, everything is always in the future. It's always far out. That is not the case with Web3 gaming. We're about to see all of these games hit. They're all kind of launching at around about the same time. It's sort of starting now and then really picking up steam. And then I think we'll really be able to look at and evaluate Web3 gaming as an experience by midway through next year. And that is true in a way that has not been true at any other point previously. It is a real there's been this real kind of massive investment by the games industry in this technology and the idea of letting players own game items as legal property. And we're now going to be able to see that far beyond the kind of indie game attempts that have happened up till now.
I agree with you. Again, thank you so much. Rubik, you got anything else?
That's all, brother.
All right.
I'm all good.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, Steve.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Just wanted to give a little update that next week's episode, we're going to have a special guest, Robbie Ferguson himself, CEO and founder of Immutable X, will be joining us to talk about all things Immutable and ZK EVM rollout.